What up, my Piney? This is Tony D with another Piney podcast. This one, not a lot going on in South Jersey, as usual. One interesting article I came across was that there is a virtual tour of the Pine Barrens, which you can take if you go to the Ocean County Library in Tuckerton. They have a virtual tour. It's like a video presentation, and I guess there's a person doing it. It's not online, though, which I was kind of bummed about. I was like, oh, I'll take the virtual tour online, and I'll do a Piney podcast, and it's not online. It's like you got to go all the way to Tuckerton and basically go to the Pines to see the Pine Barrens virtual tour. I think they really need to put that online. It'd be great. People all over the world could see it and see how awesome the Pine Barrens is. Speaking of the Pine Barrens, there was an article in USA Today about the many environmental things that passed this year. I covered a few of them in the Piney podcast. You know, there wasn't a lot of major things. Our current governor, who's a Democrat, and he's very much Mr. Environmentalism, wants to make us like carbon free by 2050, which I'm sure he will because he'll drive out all the businesses and people here when the taxes go up. Little Joan is also here. She's just off camera, sleeping in the sunbeam, which is her favorite thing to do. And speaking of South Jersey weather, the weather here has been super warm. So thank you, climate change. It's been, yesterday was like 67, today's like 65. It's January. When I was a kid, to give you some example, when I was a kid, it usually started snowing late October. One Halloween it snowed when I was trick-or-treating. But usually early November, you'd start to get some snow, and the temperature would stay that low enough that whatever snow you got didn't melt, mostly. So we would have snow on the ground from mid-November at least until late February, early March. Sometimes it would snow in March. That hasn't happened in a long time. Actually, the weather pattern these days seems to be we rarely get snow November, December. We usually start getting snow about mid-January, and then February is the really nasty month where last year we had like 2 feet of snow, and then a couple days later it was 70 degrees and it all melted. It was crazy. I actually wore shorts in February because I was so psyched that it was so hot. This year, I'm not sure, but so far it's just been warm as hell. I think we got one day of snow. It was like 2 inches and it all melted. And now this week, 50s, 40s. I think there's going to be one day in the 30s. It's great. It's wonderful. Love it. What else is going on? Well, the big news in South Jersey and the Pines. What else? Donald Trump. He's making a big return. He's coming to Wildwood on January 28th. And he's there to support Jeff Van Drew, who, as you may know if you follow politics, switched from Democratic to the Republican Party. And so he's holding the rally partly for him, but partly just to hold yet another Trump rally, which will be very interesting to see a Trump rally in Wildwood. That's where it's being held. Now, Wildwood does have the capability to hold thousands and thousands of people, because it always does. It's a shore town. But, the question in Wildwood has always been parking, right? So the reason they can kind of handle those numbers is because people go to the shore for a few days and they get a hotel and they park at the hotel because you got to get a space at the hotel, right? You're paying for it. A lot of these people who are going to come in for the Wildwood convention, the convention's only going to be a day. It's in the middle of the week. So they're probably not going to get a hotel room, I don't think. And it's January, so, you're not going to want to go swimming in January. And I don't think a lot of the boardwalk will be open, although some of it will probably be open. Manco's will be open, and a few places like that are perennial businesses that basically are open year-round now. And sometimes, the big Pokemon players, when Pokemon was big, it's still pretty big. Pokemon Go players will go on the boardwalk. There's a lot of stops. And just in general, the boardwalk's open longer and longer. So, here's Joan, a little visit. Ta-da! Piney Podcast, Joan. That's the one I'm doing. So, it's going to be interesting to see how Wildwood will react to the Trump masses coming in. Wildwood used to be party central. South Jerseyans, we sometimes refer to it as Childwood, because a lot of teenagers will go there, either on prom or just over the summer. You'll go there with your friends, and a group of you will get a room and split it, and it'll be a kind of a crappy room, but it'll be cheap, and then you'll go on the boards and then crash out in the room or whatever. It used to be a place to go drinking, and they changed the drinking laws there to make it you could drink for, I think you could drink later, it used to be. But they had a few problems, and then they, in order to alleviate the problems, because somebody got run over, and then they put in ballards to block off some streets to make them, pedestrian only, because they thought, it'd be more like New Orleans, I guess. But then people still got out of control, and then the local government decided, this is too much, so they pulled it all back, and now it's like normal drinking hours. So the whole area full of bars kind of suffered because of it. I mean, there's still a lot of bars there. Ocean City, by contrast, which is about a half hour away, they're a dry town. So it's not like every shore town is like Wildwood. But, if you want to party, you go to Wildwood. If you want to sleep, you go to Ocean City. Ocean City's like the nice place. You take your family. That's a more year-round town. Wildwood is like resort town. It kind of reminds me of Atlantic City before the casinos in some respects. Not quite as gritty and urban, but it has a lot of carnival-y. It has like a carnival atmosphere and sort of a faux 50s motel kind of look to it, which is cool. It's got a lot of character. I like Wildwood. Some people don't, but I think it's cool. I think it's always had like a cool vibe. I think what it's missing though is, it's a little too built up. There's a little too many people in Wildwood, and it's all, boardwalk. Everything's on the boardwalk. There's a few things off the boardwalk, but not a lot, And then people go to the casinos. They go to Atlantic City for the real adult fun, so to speak. So. But I've always liked Wildwood. I think it's a fun place. I think the boardwalk's great. I love Harry's Corner. If you've never been there, great place to get a gyro. Harry's Corner, everybody. This is my personal plug. I love it. I go there every time I'm down in Wildwood and get myself a nice gyro. So, will Donald Trump get himself a nice gyro? Well, we'll see. I don't think so. I think he'll just sort of fly in and fly out. It's not like he hasn't been in South Jersey before, because he used to kind of run Atlantic City for a while. So I think he'll be right at home, and I think he has a, South Jerseyans, I think they kind of either love Trump or hate Trump, If you worked for Trump back in the days of the casinos, a lot of people don't like him for his business ways. And then I think in general, he's got a lot of support from, it tends to be rich people, but also tends to be cops and Republicans. There is a Republican minority in Jersey. I mean, a lot of people don't think that, but we've had Republican governors. So it's not all Democrats. We've had very corrupt Democrats, and it's just like it's kind of like the national scene in a lot of ways. You know, we've had Republican governors and Republicans come in because the Democrats are usually in so long and they become so corrupt and they do such horrible things that eventually we just vote them out. So it goes to show you that there needs to be a balance in politics. You know, it needs to be both. It needs to be more centrist, and it needs to be, you know, a little bit of back and forth. Well, that's it for the Piney podcast. Sorry to get all political on you, but we'll see you next time, Pineys.